Okay, I'm back with another encounter with the being I met in a psych ward that I've come to call the Stranger. For those of you who may be having a hard time following the timeline, the last part of the series took place towards the end of fall 2015 semester. I had to take a medical withdrawal for the absences I accumulated in my classes. For the spring 2016 semester, I took 2 courses so I could finish the work I missed from the 5 I had to withdraw from. The way my school works, if you don't make up what you've missed in a year, you fail the course. That is, if you choose to finish the work, which I did. Now that I was properly medicated and clean off all hard drugs, I smoked a bowl occasionally, which I know I shouldn't do, but I should also get a full 8 hours, which is really difficult for me. I was much more a productive person, and I managed to make up all of my missed work and exams pretty quickly. Since I was only in 2 relatively easy courses, I had a lot of time to kill. I had gotten a job on campus at the dining hall, and I worked about 20 hours a week. Most of the time I worked nights, and I was assigned to clean the area that the students ate in. This is as boring as it sounds, but past 8, people don't really show up, so you can get away with slacking off. Bruce, I had to work really hard at not calling him Vince, followed me around on campus a lot. Ever since I called him his original name, he'd been reluctant to leave me alone. I tried not to read too much into this development. I did this by taking immense enjoyment in letting him off his lead when I could. And when I was told to put him back on his leash, I just wrapped the tiny little braided rope they gave me when I first adopted him around his neck. During this time, Bruce prevented an assault at my apartment complex. My roommates and I were hanging out at the pool at around 1 a.m. with their girlfriends. I was still single, with Bruce sitting on one of the deck chairs. Without warning, he got up, turned to the parking lot, and bounded over the pool fence with ease, and disappeared into the night. One of the girls started freaking out because he might hurt someone, and we were all assuring her that Bruce was not an aggressive dog when we heard a woman scream loudly. We all ran towards the sound, most of us drunk or stoned, and found Bruce standing over a young girl who was crying and missing her shirt. Bruce had jumped the man trying to assault her, bit him badly enough that he left a trail of blood, and instead of tracking the man down, he stayed with the girl. Why do I mention this? It will be apparent soon. I was absently cleaning a table at work one night at around 10, thinking about the groceries I needed to buy when an attractive petite girl asked me, "Are you the guy with the hero dog?" Startled out of my daze, I turned to her and said, "Yeah." You'd think I'd have something better to say, but people don't usually talk to the workers, so I was caught a little off balance. She was also cute, and that didn't help either. I'm not the kind of guy who gets approached by women often, and my lack of interest in dating over the last year had left my social skills a bit rusty. "I heard he used to be a fighting dog," the girl continued. She had long brown hair that fell across her shoulders in loose ringlets and soft gray eyes that held a small amount of awe. "Is that true? I've seen you walking him before, and he has some nasty scars. If it is, I think that's so romantic." Her smile was inviting. It had been a long time, and if I had been looking at the situation through the filters of my recently acquired paranoia, I would have been suspicious. Instead, I was horny, and the stranger was probably the furthest from my mind. "He's not a fighting dog. The vet told me he was probably mauled by a bear at some point and survived. He's a remarkably tough animal." She smiled wider, He sounds like the perfect guardian. Sometimes I wish I had a dog like that. Walking around at night is pretty scary, but I live on campus, so no pets." "Where do you live?" I asked. She pointed out the window. "The first building you hit walking that way. I always forget its name." I'd never lived on campus. It was expensive, and I had Bruce to take care of. "I'll have to bring him by sometime. He doesn't look it, but he's the friendliest dog I've ever owned." "I'll keep my eye out for you then," she said cheeringly as she stood up and gathered her plates to carry to the dish return. "Oh, I'll take those," I said, taking the stack of dishes and her cup. It wasn't busy, and I thought I had a chance. "Thanks," she said with a smile that made me feel warm inside. "I'm usually in the common area by the tables on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You should bring Vince by so we can talk." I felt really good as she left, my heart fluttering from the potential of meeting a cute girl that it took me 10 minutes to realize that she called my dog Vince. The warm feeling I felt condensed into a cold dread as I realized what had just happened. Only one other person, thing, that I knew of called Bruce that name, the stranger. I was so distracted that I put the used dishes on the salad bar as I went on autopilot for the rest of the evening, trying to understand what had just happened. I probably should have ran, or at least made an effort to avoid the girl at every opportunity. You have to understand, it was nothing like it had been before. For one, it was a short, attractive brunette, when before it had been a lanky man with piercing green eyes. It looked and acted so much like a normal girl that if she hadn't named Vince, I wouldn't have noticed anything was different. I almost wanted to cry. Bruce picked up on my distress as soon as I got home and followed me into my bedroom and sat at the foot of my bed as I drifted off into a fitful sleep that night. I still had nightmares. The next day was Thursday, and trying to be courageous, I put a leash on Bruce and walked to the housing complex and sat at the table outside the girls' dorm. I waited there for a good 90 minutes, not doing anything. I didn't check my phone. I didn't get up. Bruce and I just sat there and waited. "I didn't think you were this starved for female attention," a familiar playful voice said from behind me. I turned slowly, and there was the same petite college girl from the previous night. She was dressed in jeans and was wearing a college hoodie. A small backpack was slung over her shoulder, and she carried a small purse. I like my privacy, so I'm not going to tell you where I go to school. She was smiling widely. I looked down at Bruce, who didn't react to her. That meant one of two things. Either the girl wasn't a threat, or Bruce couldn't tell that there was anything wrong with her. "Stop messing with me," I said tiredly and a little harshly. I hadn't slept much last night. "Who are you?" She seemed taken aback by my frankness of my tone, and I immediately thought my paranoid mind had made some kind of mistake, and now I worried, or maybe hoped, that I was going to scare off a girl who genuinely showed me interest. I hadn't had sex in almost a year. "I'm Millie," she said, slowly sitting down next to me. She scratched Bruce's neck, and he involuntarily started thumping his leg. She smiled at the reaction. I let myself hope that I had been horribly wrong. "But I think you remember me from when I was Derek," she said, still scratching Bruce. She turned to me and smiled warmly. "Derek means well, but he can still be a bit of a sadist. Must be why he was in that facility. That, and the psychotic break." "Oh, hell," I muttered. "What are you? Some kind of demon? Or angel?" Millie The stranger, whatever it is, laughed at the question. You might as well ask if I'm a destructive asshole or a stuck-up prick, she said. Don't compare me to them. I'm so much more than their kind. It said that so casually, so much like a normal freshman girl, that it was hard to reconcile the tone and the words. Why are you Millie now, and not Derek? I asked, changing track. At this point, I didn't want to know what the fuck it was. I just wanted it gone. Bruce must have sensed something, because he pulled away from her and made a point to put himself between me and Millie. Again, I wasn't sure if that was supposed to reassure or worry me. Who's to say that I'm not still Derek as well? She asked with a mischievous gleam in her eye. She moved a bit closer to me. Are you God? I whispered. That time she laughed loudly, quickly getting control of herself. No, she said, fighting the laughter. She grinned widely. Why are you doing this to me? Why is some kind of, I don't know, shapeshifter following me around? She opened her mouth to respond when a man called out, Millie! Millie turned and looked at the man, rolled her eyes at me, and explained, Boyfriend. He's been really jealous since I became Millie. It's so irritating. He'll freak if he sees me this close to you. She got up and gathered her things. I'll deal with him? Talk soon? She asked. I nodded dumbly. The answer is, I like you, she said, winking at me. She walked over to her boyfriend. He looked like a jock, blonde and buff with an athletic jacket. He pulled her close and spoke to her. It didn't look like a tender conversation. Not knowing what to do, I looked at Bruce. He met my eyes, and I swear he shrugged at me. I sighed, got up, and walked back to my car. I had a quiz in an early class the next day, so I went to bed early that night to make up for the lost sleep. I slept in and freaked out because I missed my class. I was soon freaking out for a completely different reason. Campus was on lockdown. Police were combing the grounds for evidence after one of the grisliest murders in my college's history. A junior had been brutally beaten the night before and thrown into a dumpster. Later in the day, they released his name, Michael Fisher, along with a picture. It was Millie's boyfriend. Fuck me. Oddly, a prophetic thought. Thank you for watching. I always appreciate the support you show me, and I'm forever grateful for it. Hope everyone had a wonderful day. All my social media information is in the description box below. All the story, music, and image information is below as well. And don't forget, I'll see you.